Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you my Alpha Bridge build and why I think this is currently the 1.4 meta and potentially one of the strongest builds in the Dark Zone currently. But I'll let you guys debate that and let me know in the comments if you think I can improve this build or there's tweaks or something that I've missed that could help me. But overall, I think this is a great gear set and a great build, and this should help you out significantly if you're wanting to do PvP in the Dark Zone. So getting down to the basics, as per my previous builds, if you're coming new to 1.4, I'm going to explain where you need to stack your defenses first, so you can actually survive in the Dark Zone. If you're coming from 1.3, how your gear's changed and what you now need to focus on, because no longer you're just automatically hitting the armor cap. The game's changed quite a lot. So in 1.4, what they've done is they've changed the armor mitigation and they've brought it down to 70% from 75%, but to achieve 70% you're going to have to sacrifice your playstyle by equipping gear where you're going to have to stand inside cover to achieve the 70%. But it's no longer needed in the sense that a lot of people are still running around in the Dark Zone right up in each other's face, and the highest you're going to get is roughly about 57% armor mitigation. I'm going to teach you how to get that now. For the first 4 pillars of every build for PvP you need to work on, regardless of what you've got, even if you're just going in and you've got mixed gear, you need to have your chest, your backpack, your knees and your holster all need to have armor on top of their base ordinary armor. And what I mean by this, if you look at this chest piece, the armor comes already 1400. If you go to my chest piece that I'm using, I've equipped in the major attribute armor to get that up to 2446. And if you go to my backpack, again, my major attribute, I've equipped armor. If you go to my knee pads, I've equipped armor. And if I go to my holster, I've equipped armor. Now what this is going to give you is, with 229 gear across these 4 pillars, you're going to get 50% armor mitigation. This is enough. If a rogue comes up to you, starts shooting you, you can proc a heal, you can get away safely, and he's not just going to instantly melt you because your mitigation is strong enough. Now to get from that 50% to 57%, which I'm still working on, currently this build is 56.7. I'm really close, but I can get there, and I'm going to teach you how to. Is you need to put mods onto your gear sets which have got armor. So if I go into my chest piece, you'll notice that down in my mod slots I've got prototype firearms mods, and these have actually got armor equipped to them. Now you can get these in firearms, stamina or electronics depending where you want to build this character. I will go through mine now and explain, but this is what you want to stack. So you want to have your mods with armor, and on the left, if you look at your pieces, on the left side is where you're going to get your major attribute roles. So you've got your firearms, your stamina, electronic mods are going on the left side, and on the right side is going to be performance mods. So if you look at my chest, I've got 2 firearms armor. If you look at my mask, I've got firearms armor. If you look at my knees, I've got electronics armor. I'll explain why. And if you look at my backpack, I've got firearms armor. So I'll just quickly prove that. So yeah, you've got firearms and armor, firearms armor, my knee pads, I've got electronics and armor. But that's the basics. That's going to keep you alive. That's going to get your armor mitigation up, and you're going to be able to survive. That's rule 101. The second rule, unless you're running 3 of 3, like my one-shot headshot build, or you're running what I mean by that, sorry, is 3 pieces of one gear set and 3 pieces of another, or if you're running like a different build where you're doing some sort of hybrid. But generally, if you're running a 4-piece gear set to unlock all the talents, the one that I always recommend is Savage Gloves. I can't recommend these enough. Always go for Savage Gloves. They're the strongest out of every other gold that you can apply, because with Savage you're getting critical hit chance is increased by 7% against targets out of cover. And with these Savage Gloves, always, you can see I've got a whole stack of them. Always you want to have in your major attributes critical hit chance and critical hit damage. If you don't have these 2 on the Savage Gloves and it's not working out to you, just get rid of them. So if I go through just some examples, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, Savage 7%, again, you know, just rinse and repeat. That's what you want. You always want the Savage Gloves. That can't stress that enough, and then you can start building wherever you want to build your character. On this, I've put my 4-piece against my chest, my mask, my knees, and my holster. With Alpha Bridge, if you don't know, I'll just quickly go through the bonuses. So if you have 2 pieces of Alpha Bridge equipped, you're going to get yourself, where is it now? There you go, it's 2 set bonuses. So 2 pieces equipped, you get 100% health regen. 3 pieces, you'll get weapon damage of 5%. This is fantastic because it goes across any weapon, so it's a nice little buff. But then the 4 piece, now this is where Alpha for me is working out to be the meta, because it's giving you the most damage on your weapons and it's helping you pump out the damage so you can get them down before they're doing as much damage to you, because no other set is going to give you as much damage except for like the headshot build damage, like I was showing you last time with the 3 sentries, 3 Hunter's Faith. So with this fourth set, the bonus is your primary and your secondary, which in my case is an SMG and an SMG. They both gain all of the unique active talents. So if you've got any activated talents on these weapons, they're all going to be stacked in a row of 6 instead of 3. So now with the weapon talents in 1.4 have changed significantly from the God roll, which was responsive, brutal, deadly. Now in the mix, you've got stuff that's come in like competent, where you're proccing 10% extra damage from using a skill. You've got stuff like, hang on, I'm losing my train of thought because I don't know the talents without looking at them. Like vicious, for instance, so your critical hit chance increased by 10% more than 2 health segments. You'll have stuff like unforgiving, where you go down by 1 bar and you increase by 10% damage on your weapon, go down by 2 bars and you increase by 25. So that's why Alpha Bridge is the strongest, because you can stack all these talents on your weapons, you can output more damage. So going a bit more technical into this build, I've staggered it across the 4 piece in this orientation, because if you look at my previous builds that I put out, I'd said go for the vigorous chest piece because you get an additional damage from the booster shot. Just quickly explain, if you've got a vigorous chest piece, it grants an overheal to all healing skills. If you've got a booster shot, you're still getting that overheal when normally you wouldn't with the booster shot, but with what it does, it gives you that additional damage so you can output a bit more. I'd also said, go for stuff like refreshed, where you're down to your last health segment and you use a med kit, or you use your health and it reprocs you all the way back to the top. Or I was saying, use stuff like tenacious, where you increase your damage by 10% for 10 seconds when using a med kit. I've actually tested out various different builds with the Alpha, and this seems to be the strongest because I'm still outputting the most amount of damage, but also I'm not being held back by any of the talents. Now what I mean by that is, on the mask for instance, Tenacious, when you use a med pack, it's great because you're getting that 10% damage. What you don't realise, when you do hit the med pack, he injects, and then there's a split second or maybe a bit longer where you can't physically shoot. And if you've got somebody like me hitting you and you're healing it up and you've got a second, within 1 second I can instantly strip that med pack you've just applied. And I'm not kidding, I've tried this over and over, and I've actually gone down to my last health segment, I've put my med pack in, and then instantly it's just disappeared, because that second I can't shoot back and they just hit me in the face. So it didn't work out as well as I thought it would. With the booster shot, what I was finding with the vicious chest piece and using the booster shot, what I was finding is to use the advantage of the booster shot, I was always applying it before I went into fighting, and then I was waiting for it to recharge. But that puts you at a bit of a disadvantage in case you do get hit by 2 people and you're trying to get your health back up. But you could play without going into, charged up into battle, like so to say, because I always proc it because then I've got the extra damage. You could use it after, and then you would have a bit extra damage when you're in the fight. But what I found is the specialized bagpack adds 200% of firearms and stamina to your skill power. And you're probably going, what? Why the hell have you gone for this? The reason I've gone for this is because if you look at my firearms, I'm 5,600 and my stamina is 3,971. Now, 200% of that, if I didn't have this bagpack and I was stacking so much into my firearms, I wouldn't be outputting the same DPS. I'd have to sacrifice that and put a different bag on, and then in order to get my skill power up. If I was to take this bag off, straight away I'd be down to 60,000 skill power. If I was to use the overheal, I'd only get from 1 bar possibly back up to full health. With this bag equipped and my skill power at 90,000, when I go down to 1 bar and I hit my overheal, I instantly go all the way up to full health plus a full overheal, and I've still got this ridiculous amount of firearms and this ridiculous amount of toughness. This is why I've gone for this backpack, and it's working out really, really well for me. And then the other things that you need to know is where I'm getting my health from, because you need to be constantly healing yourself when you're in these engagements, because now there seems to be a longer duration between where you can use a health pack or where you can actually physically apply your health to get back. So what I've done is I've stacked my weapons up in such a way where I'm actually regaining health continuously. The way in which I've done that is this build is set up around crit. So currently I've got a ridiculous amount of crit from these SMGs, but the way my talents are working, and in particular these two talents, if I put it this way around, these two talents, self-preserved, so critical hits with this weapon heal the user for 3% of damage dealt, and then vicious, so critical hit chances increased by 10% whilst more than 2 health segments. If I'm continuously shooting somebody and I'm hitting them with crit, I'm constantly getting healed. I've got a really high crit build where I'm trying to achieve crit, so I'm constantly getting healed whilst they're trying to hit me in the face. What also is helping me is with Unforgiving. Competent is great because I go in engaged with the pulse activator, which is giving me that crit hit chance, so I'm always going to hit the crits, my health's going to stay up. With Unforgiving, as soon as I start taking more damage, my damage increases. So if I'm facing somebody and we're shooting face to face, I'm critting them, re-healing, they're hitting me, but I'm hitting them harder because my Unforgiving is stacking up with my Competent, and it just keeps adding more and more damage the further down I go. But I'm also having that boost of having the health applied to me, and then in between when we both start to reload, I re-heal back to full health. I'm hitting straight away again, and I'm staying in that overheal recharged whilst I'm still shooting them. At the same time, they're going down. So I've done this against, you know, 2 rogues at a time, and I've taken 2 people no problem. 3's a bit difficult because you can get focused. But this is why I've got, you know, the way it's set up in the moment. Going through my pieces just to show you how I've set this up. So going to my chest piece, I've got stamina, which it could be higher, but it's still really good. I've got health. Previously I spoke about exotic damage resilience because of the seeker mines, which are getting used quite frequently now. What you can do is shoot them on the ground, which I've been doing, which is really easy. If they've got the multi-balls where they segment off and they go everywhere, just dive and roll and get behind cover. That's the only advice I can give you. But there's not many people that have got full maxed out tech where they can actually down you with one of them. They have to do a bit of damage to you first. And obviously this build, I'm always trying to get my heal up, so I'm surviving, so I've decided to sacrifice that for health and get my toughness up. Also, my minor attribute is ammo with Alpha Bridge. Obviously, you're using the same pool because you've got 2 SMGs, so it's coming from the same ammo reserve, and it's just destroying it, so that's why I've gone for ammo capacity. And then my skill attributes, Seeker Mine, Explosive Radius. This is great in case I want to use the Seeker and be a pain in the ass, but it could be better, it could be more towards crit because this is a crit build, it could be the pulse. Going to my backpack, obviously armor, but then you want your minor attribute to be burn resistance. Again, as per my previous build, you know, you want to get your resistance up as much as possible. So, you know, going through to my mask, I've got blind death resistance. This could be better, this could be pulse, but again, I've gone for health instead of, you know, crit hit chance, which could be better, but it's just, I'd already previously rolled this piece and I wish I'd changed it around, but I needed the firearms at the time. So you can see I'm at 1200 firearms to get me up. But this could be changed where the health could be crit hit chance, or it could be exotic damage resilience, depending if you're getting a lot of seeker mines on you. But this seems to be working out for me, and it's getting my toughness up really strong. Again, your minor, you want the blind death resistance. On your knee pads, you want as much resistance, you want the high armor. You know, I've got really high stamina, so it's a really good piece. And then my minors, I've got like burn resistance, disrupt resistance, distort resistance. So you just want all them resistances to build up, and then if they start flashbanging you, grenading you, whatever they're going to do, you've got plenty of resistance against that. Obviously I went through the gloves, they're pretty much self-explanatory now. Savage, get as high as you can. I've got really high firearms in these, they're really good. I wish this was an SMG, then it'd be more advantage towards this build, but they're really good. And the major thing is the skill attribute has got pulse critical hit damage. That's why I've gone for these Savage gloves. I really wish they were SMG, so this could be improved. Holster, obviously you can only get armor on this and you want to roll armor. This could be better, you know, there's some things that could be better. It could be 1000 right across, but it's still a really good piece. So, you know, really fantastic. Going into what I've put on my performance mods on my bag, I've put on pulse critical hit damage and pulse critical hit damage, 2 pieces. For my performance, on my knee pads, again, pulse critical hit damage, and I go to my holster and I've done pulse critical hit damage. The reason for this is I'm running pulse as my primary because I'm trying to get that crit up. So if you look at my character, I'm currently got critical hit chance of 21.5, which is really good for 1.4 because in 1.2 obviously you had the SMGs where you already had the crit hit chance applied to them. In 1.3 they changed that and changed the crit hit damage, so you're still trying to get that crit hit chance applied. So with this, that's my base off my weapons, 21.5, which is pretty high. You can get this better, you can get up to like 30 if I was to use another talent, but I don't want to sacrifice the talents I've got. 21.5 is my base. Then I've got my Savage gloves, which is giving me an increase of anybody that's out of cover by 7%. Then I use my pulse, which is another 15%, which is getting me up to about 43%, which is great because then I'm going to be critting. And obviously with that self-preserve talent, I'm going to be getting my health back, like I said. Now, looking at this build, I've got my crit hit damage up to 152%, which is fantastic because the scaling in this game is not directly linear. It doesn't just go in a straight line right across the graph. As soon as you hit the 100%, it starts scaling ridiculously once you go past that. So I've got 152, got over that 100 threshold. The 52 is doing an increased massive amount of damage, which is fantastic. My headshot damage is 73, which is great. You know, if it hit them in the face, it's going to hurt them. It's really good. Now, the way I achieved getting so much crit is when I go to my actual physical weapon. This is one of the strongest SMGs now. There's been plenty of videos on YouTube explaining who's got the strongest weapons now, what's the best weapon. By far, the strongest weapon is Hungry Hog. I'm just going to say it now, that is the strongest weapon. That does the most damage. There's nothing else that's even comparable to it. There's been, you know, extensive research where people have done data mining and found and gone through all the weapons within the SMG category. The MP5 is the strongest. A lot of people will argue with you and say no, the AUG, because it's damage, base damage, you can get this up to like 16.9, I think. But the only problem with the AUG is the size of the magazine and the rate of fire compared to the MP5. With 1.4, it's now as much about sustained damage instead of having that burst damage. Like in 1.3, you know, you had an MP7, something like this, where I had brutal deadly responsive, and you had that initial burst damage, and you just rip through them, and that would be it. You'd have them on the ground. With 1.4, it's a lot more technical fighting, where it goes and it outstands and it just keeps going. So you've got to have that continuation fire, you've got to have that rate of fire, and you've got to have that damage just keep carrying on. So this is a really good MP5. I've got 37% crit hit damage. It's got base damage of 15.2, and obviously I've managed to get my RPM up and my mag size up. I'll go through the mods on the weapon. The mods you want to be looking for the SMGs is the Pro Red Dot Sight. This gives you crit hit damage, headshot damage, crit hit chance. You want to go for extended magazines, which is going to give you the magazine size and get you up to that 67 bullets. 67 bullets continuous, non-stop, is just irritating, and it's really good. This MP5 is really, really strong now. Then you've got the critical hit damage of 4%, and then you've rate of fire, so I'm trying to increase my rate of fire from 800 to 846. The small grips are pretty bad now. Like your grips in general are pretty bad. You could be better. When I'm saying they're bad is the crit and the crit hit chance has been removed from them. Now it's crit hit damage on them. So your crit hit damage on this one is 20%. I believe this is the highest you can get. I would like here to be reload speed. Would be fantastic, but optimal range is fine because it gives me that bit of distance on the SMGs, and accuracy, obviously accuracy helps, so not going to complain about it. And then on the loud vent break, this is probably one of the highest you can get as well, which has got critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and headshot damage. This is how I'm getting 153, I think it was 153 or 152 crit hit, which is hitting really hard. Sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons right now. 152. But that's my weapon. Now, the other thing you've probably noted about my weapons is you look to my second weapon, which is really, really weak, which is a 182 Vector. What I did is I went back to World Tier 2, found a blueprint for the Vector, bought the blueprint. The reason I've gone for a 182 is the sacrifice on how much firearm stamina and electronics you need to unlock the individual talents. So if you look at competent, for me to be able to get a god roll Vector with competent in the perfect slot and then have self-preserved and it not affect my electronics, because obviously I'm using that backpack to get my skill power up and I want to stack into firearms, I had to come down to 182s because it was easier to achieve and I only needed 2,000. So what this has allowed me to do is unlock Unforgiving, Competent, and Self-Preserved, and obviously I've gone through that. That helps with the heals. That's my secondary weapon. I don't use it, it's just there just for the talents. And being a 182 as well, it's not going to sacrifice with these talents, it's not going to sacrifice on how much percentage you're hitting because they're just a general percentage for that talent. So Competent's never going to change, it's always 10%, Unforgiving's 10%, 25%, and Self-Preserved is always going to be the same. But that's the reason. My pistol, you know, X45, a helpful tip here for the X45, if you can get harmful, where you can apply bleed, say if you've got a rogue running away from you, pull your pistol out, tag them a few times, they're bleeding, they pull away from the pack, hopefully it slows the pack down, then you can kill him, or you just tag the one guy, he's on his own, you just melt him, and he's gone, and his friends are just arseholes for leaving him. Yeah, this is pretty much the build, guys. I'm going to let some gameplay play out and see what you think. Really strong. It's great at taking face-on one-on-ones where I'm going to beat them because I'm constantly getting healed from that self-preserve talent. I've got a shitload of crits, so I'm doing a shitload of damage. But I'll also, actually, just before I do get into the footage, I'll explain how I'm getting an extra increase in damage, because you're probably looking going, hang on a minute, it's only got 257 DPS on your SMG. What else am I doing to get that extra burst damage, and why am I so effective at getting people down? Going into the abilities, going into the pulse, I'm using Scrambler. I've talked about this previously. Everyone used to run Tactical Scanner because it was the best. It's no longer the case. The reason I'm using Scrambler is the pulse protects users against enemies, pulses. If you look at the crit hit chance, it's 7.7 base, 15 total, and then crit hit damage is 7.7, 21.4. Now, if I go, that's the crit hit damage. If I go up to the tactical scanner, I'm only getting 4% increase on critical hit damage, and I can sacrifice 4% because it's not going to give me that much more damage. This is going to keep me hidden, and it's also going to stop their pulls coming against me. That's the reason I'm going for the Scrambler. As for my heals, I'm using the overdose because obviously the overdose gives me the overheal, and obviously I've got self-heal 94,000. I'm at 130,000 health, so I get down to my last bar segment, and that's probably about 30 health, 30,000, 40,000. So as soon as I hit overdose, boom, I'm straight back up, and I've got my overheal as well. So that's fantastic. If I was to use booster with the vigorous like I was talking about, I'd sacrifice the bag. My skill power would come down because I've stacked everything in stamina and firearms. I wouldn't be able to proc, and I'm only getting 60,000 HP. I wouldn't be able to proc my overheal back. That's why I changed out from the vigorous chest piece. So that's the reason I'm running the bagpipe. Going into my talents, I'm using critical save, which everybody should be using. So you use a medikit during low health to increase damage resistance. So you get down to your last bar, you hit a meg pack, you've got 40% mitigation applied to you, and then you've got that for 10 seconds. So it's great. You can stand in that fight longer, and you can be there in the face. Reach low health, sorry, the other one is strike back. So you reach low health to reduce active skill cooldowns by 20%. You get down to that last bar, and you might be jumping around frantically. This is going to help. It's going to give you that 20% increase while you're in that last health segment and get your heals back up so you can actually heal yourself. The next one is on the move. On the move, obviously, you kill a hostile whilst moving to reduce the incoming damage by 30%. So if you've got 4 rogues, and or there's an NPC near you, shoot the NPC, smash him down to the ground. You've got this 30% extra damage mitigation, and you can just go into battle, and you'll be a lot tankier. And then the one that's absolutely standout now, which everyone should be using, is Tactical Advance. So you complete a cover-to-cover move, which increases your weapon damage by 2% for every meter covered for 10 seconds. I cannot stress how effective this is. And this can be used so well, but it all comes down to your gameplay. So generally what I'll do, I'll sit up against a wall, and I might be rogue, for instance, and I'll see the players come in. I'll look behind me, and I'll find a spot where I can get to safely, and they can't tag me. That's a bad example because they could have hit me. But then straight away, that's increased my primary DPS to 377. As well, at the same time, I would generally pulse, and because of my competent talent, that's going to give me an additional 10% damage on top of my weapon. So this is my general DPS, which I'm hitting people for. Plus I've got the really high crit, so I'm hitting for 401. That's my standard. That's what I'm going to be shooting. So I've got 400 DPS, plus I've got 150 crit. So I'm just melting them. I'm hitting for like 70,000 a bullet. So they can't stand in front of me because I'm also getting that crit, and it's getting my health. So if they're trading with me face value, I'm getting healed because I've got so much crit. I'm getting 3% of that 70,000 per bullet. My health regenerating, there's not much they can do against me. Also, if you're going solo, I can't stress enough how good Recovery Link is now. So with Recovery Link being solo, it automatically triggers on lethal damage when not in a group. So what that means is if you're a solo player, you get absolutely destroyed and you're trying to survive on your own, and rogues are hitting you. As soon as you get down, you haven't got any more med packs, and you go below 0, boom, this triggers, you get full health and an overheal. And if you keep running around, this keeps proccing and keeps healing, keeps healing, keeps healing. And I think it goes on for a duration. I don't think it actually gives you the time. Oh, 12 seconds. So for 12 seconds, you're just going to keep healing and healing, and you can get away. So that's great if you're a solo player. Obviously for me, if I'm in a group, I'll use something like Tactical Link. Sometimes I'll use Survivor Link, but a lot of my teammates carry Survivor Link anyway. If I'm using Tactical Link, you can only imagine what my DPS value is. So say if I'm coming up and I know there's rogues coming around the corner, there might be like a manhunt, there might be just two of us there. So I'll instantly, you know, try and get them on a corner, catch them off guard. So I get to a corner like this, I'm already charged up because I've got a tactical advance. I'll pulse, and then I'll use my tactical link, and then I'm hitting 700,000 DPS. Plus my rate of fire has increased 1200. So it's just, you know, I just melt them one after another, and they just go straight down to the ground. So what I'll do now, I don't think I've missed anything. If I have, I'll do it in a future video and I'll explain what I missed in previous ones, but I'll let the gameplay play out and I'll let you guys judge for yourself what you think of this build. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, he's squishy.
Focus in. Focus now. Focus
Yeah,
in.
mace.
Warning. You are now entering the contaminated area.
Got me. Fuck. I'm dead, dude. Pick that shit up.
I dropped him.
An enemy.
Rogue
Yeah,
agent.
there's a rogue.
Alert.
My
Your
bad.
team member has disavowed the division. Your team is now designated rogue. Rogue agent down. Warning. You
you
disavowed
come
the
behind.
division and are
Me,
marked
aye.
as rogue.